A warm and pleasant good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kadion Richards-Bailey. I am the Positive Youth Development Program Specialist with the Advanced team. This morning, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our Learning Forum on Positive Youth Development through Social and Emotional Learning. On behalf of my team, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. Joining us this morning, we have USAID Washington and Jamaica. We have joining us Sienna Fleischer, Michael Lisman, and Gerard Fontaine. Welcome to you. We're also pleased to welcome our partners from the University of Technology, the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica, and the Vocational Training Development Institute, who have supported us on our vision and has helped us co-create the programs we've had over the years. Our goal this morning is to give you clarity on positive youth development and to share its importance in nation building. We also want to encourage you, our current partners, if you haven't joined this program, please come on board. It's not too late. And also, I want to encourage you to share, like, follow us on our social media pages. We're on Twitter and Instagram. Our Twitter handles are at @AdvancePRGM, that's at Advance Program without the vowels, and Instagram at The Advance Program. Don't forget to follow us, like, and share. This morning, we have organized a wonderful program for you. And before I take you through the program, I'd like to give you a bit of background on what is positive youth development. Last year, the advanced team began exploring additional support that could be offered to pre-tertiary level students. This was initiated because during the implementation of the advanced program, we, the team, recognized that there were some gaps among students, especially those at the pre-tertiary level and early tertiary levels. These gaps included a limited awareness about alternative education pathways, career options, areas of studies, and its relationship to the job market. Also, there was a lack of confidence among students and self-awareness, and little to no social and emotional learning skills. The Positive Youth Development Program is a youth empowerment program that has had successes in several countries, including the United States, Uganda, Kenya, Honduras, and Bangladesh. The Positive Youth Development Program follows the framework of USAID's Youth Power Learning, which generates and disseminates knowledge about the implementation and impact of positive youth development and cross-sectorial approaches in international youth development. USAID's Youth Power Learning defines PYD as positive youth development engages youth along with their families, their communities, and our government so that youth are empowered to reach their full potential. PYD builds skills, assets, and competencies, fosters healthy relationships, strengthens the environment, and transforms systems. The program understands that youth transitions through critical developmental phases, rapidly evolving socially, emotionally, physically, with this complex world. Also, that there are multiple facets that influence how they develop and strive, and they recognize that as a function of these interactions, with complex interactions and systems, we can help to better respond to youth needs. PYD addresses youth as assets to be developed rather than problems to be managed. The goal of the local PYD program is that more young people are equipped with critical non-academic skills that prepare them to meet life challenges through progressive activities and experiences, which will help them to become socially, morally, emotionally, and physically competent adults and citizens. In designing this program, a series of consultations were held with pre-service teachers, with students from the National Secondary School Council, and leaders from our partner institutions. These consultations supported the decision to design a cascading training model where teacher educators were trained to train pre-service teachers at the undergraduate and graduate level. Following this, the pre-service teachers are then observed by their trainers and provided with feedback on the extent to which they are modeling and embedding positive youth development through social and emotional learning in the classroom during their teaching practicum. The training has seven areas of focus. One, the introduction to positive youth development, the introduction to social and emotional learning, SEL, and elements of social and emotional learning. The elements of social and emotional learning were taken from the Cassell model and were broken down into 5 areas: identity and agency, emotional regulation, social skills, cognitive regulation, and public spirit, because stakeholders realized that these were skills that students were lacking. Teacher educators completed over 30 hours of training and were given 2 hours of individual coaching along with practical assessment to ensure that they met the requisite skills to train pre-service teachers in this content. Due to the impact of COVID-19, all the trainings were held virtually. The program also has drafted a toolkit for teacher educators, a workbook for pre-service teachers, and plans are in place to create an online course. At this point, I want to ask our current partners once again, if you are interested in coming on board, now is the time. We are setting up another training for teacher educators, and we're inviting you to join that round. We're also offering coaching, resources, and tools to support pre-service teachers as they transition to the classroom. We're open to participating in observation of teachers, pre-service teachers who are going to take their practical. I also want to invite you to listen to teacher educators who are also participants on this program as they share with you their experience and their journey.
My name is Eunice Law Thomas, and I'm currently a lecturer at the Vocational Training Development Institute, which is the tertiary arm of HeartTrust National Service Training Agency. We were introduced to the Positive Youth Development Program for social emotional learning, and it turned out to be very interesting, very insightful, and totally valuable. It heightened my own awareness of my social emotional learning skills, and also how important it was to build that into the classroom to empower our young people and to help them build confidence so that they could make good decisions. I do believe that the program is very important for pre-service teachers because it will equip them with skills that are not normally highlighted in our education system. For example, soft skills such as empathy, which is important for learning to live with people. And they can model that in the classroom with their students so that they can actually hear it and see it in action. The training has impacted my work as we covered areas such as communication and agency. And so I find myself now listening actively to my students more than before and listening for what is said and what is not said. There's also the matter of the use of emotional intelligence in the classroom to treat with the whole student as opposed to just the topic that you're dealing with. The whole thing translates into a little more motivation for everyone, which is useful in this pandemic era. My comfort level with the Positive Youth Development Social Emotional Learning Program, I would say, is 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. My challenges were few actually with the program because the trainer was excellent, Dr. Gillian Sams. She actually modeled the social emotional learning. And so we got to experience it. We got to see what experience it as participants in the class. My challenge was actually learning about myself and keeping it real and noting the areas for improvement. There was also the realization that this program is awesome and the potential that it held for our young people and actually for nation building. I have noticed that the desired outcomes of the social emotional learning program complements the VTDI's graduates profile as we train our students to be effective communicators and to be responsible citizens. I would also like to thank Advance for introducing such an excellent program.
Thank you, Mrs. Lord Thomas. How exciting is it to hear her journey, to hear her experience on this program. We love to hear her story. At this point in time, I'd like to invite Gerard Fontaine from USA Jamaica, who will bring us greetings.
The Advance program. So Michael Lisman, USA Washington. This is Christine Brady, Technical Director of the Global Education FHI 360. Professor Sharon Barrett, Dean of the Faculty of Education and Liberal Studies, University of Technology. Other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to be with you today in this important forum, which goal is to highlight the benefits of positive youth development through social emotional learning. The USAID-funded Advance program was developed to help narrow the education skill gaps that we are seeing in Latin American, Caribbean countries and in other parts of the world. Tertiary level technical education is one of the pathways that can help respond to this challenge, and its benefits are shared among the institutions, employers, and the youth. The Advance program is helping to strengthen the capacity of 2- and 3-year technical tertiary education programs by providing market-relevant quality training to disadvantaged youth for increased employment. Therefore, by providing training by women, youth are acquiring the skills that employers need and will need in the upcoming years. Employers have access to a cadre of well-trained and well-rounded employees. With USAID's support, the Advance program is also working with tertiary school partners by improving curriculum design and pedagogy, providing professional development opportunities for faculty and staff, and enhancing labor market bridging services to help students find gainful employment after graduating. It is our pleasure to continue to partner with the Council of Community College of Jamaica, the Vocational Training Development Institute, and the University of Technology of Jamaica to give Jamaican youth the skills that they need in order to get new or better employment or to become entrepreneurs and eventually employ others. However, it will take more than the technical classroom content. We've learned over the year that youth also need our collective help to achieve a positive sense of self-esteem and also to build their confidence and wider life skills. They also need our help to navigate some of the challenges that they are facing. A dedicated focus on positive youth development will really help them to achieve that workforce success and success at life on the whole. Thanks again for being part of today's event. We have great challenges and great opportunities, but thanks to the work that you all are doing, we will certainly meet them. On behalf of USAID and by extension the US government, I wish the participant and our partners here every success in the presentation and exchanges that we will be having today. Thank you.
And thank you, Gerard. It was a pleasure hearing from you, and thank you for that reminder that we all need to work together to support our youth. At this moment and point in time in our presentation, I'd like to invite Michael Lisman. Michael is our team lead education in the Bureau of Latin America and Caribbean for USAID in Washington. Michael, I welcome you.
Thank you, Kadian. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I wish that I was in Jamaica in person with all of you instead of in my living room on a drizzly day in Washington, D.C., but a pleasure nonetheless. And by the way, this is me dressed up in 2021. So I guess you're welcome, or my most sincere apologies, depending on how you look at that. Let me say that USAID has made for a long time investments in programs that conceive of education as a key driver of development. I believe that, and I'm pretty sure I'm preaching to the choir on that point. And again, Advance is a regionally funded and managed program out of our office, the LAC Bureau in Washington, D.C., on workforce development, particularly focused on helping disadvantaged young people to get new or better employment opportunities by connecting the labor market to the training spaces and working hand in hand with institutions that serve these populations to kind of really meet them where they're at. We've supported this work in Honduras, currently the Dominican Republic, Guatemala, and of course in Jamaica since 2015. And we'll be in the near future, we'll be completing a long-term impact evaluation program with a major focus on Jamaica. So we're looking forward to that. We talk about workforce training and preparation for the labor market in programs that we support. But we know from both heaps of social science, solid social science research, as well as what's probably plain as day for you all to see, all of you working in this space, it's more than the technical skills and credentials. The world is changing rapidly for sure, but it's also fundamentally the same. The soft skills and the social emotional learning that underpins them, the critical thinking, as was already mentioned, self-confidence, sense of agency, are facets just as important as any. And you've noted this. Employer surveys across the region have noted this. Advances program analyses have noted this. And so I want to take a second to commend Jamaica's partner institutions and their leaders today through the Advance program, the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica, the CCCJ, the University of Technology, UTech Jamaica, the Vocational Training Development Institute, BTDI. These are the real engines of change in the program. We know that, and quite clearly in the country. And it's been exciting to watch, albeit afar, again, from my living room the past few years, the successes of these partner institutions. 4 new associate degree programs and 2 revised associate degree programs. Deeper and more connected recruitment strategies in the targeted communities. Customized internships and other work experience efforts with private sector partners that see to it that there's more than just inputs into the training and focus on the outputs and the outcomes, and a lot more. And in considering the advanced program's objectives, our partners saw an opportunity to add the positive development piece, PYD, as something that could add value and something that my colleagues in the USAID Global Center for Education have been advocating and developing resources on for a good few years now. It's a hard name to take issue with, positive youth development, but it's based on social science, neuroscience, and brain development. It encourages empathy and empowers the adults working directly with youth to see these young people not as problems, not as deficient, not as broken, but as Dr. Richard Lerner put it, as learners with strengths and abilities unique to their developmental stage and context. The goal, quite simply, is to orient around positive outcomes as opposed to punitive ones. And I'm glad to see we're expanding the learning opportunities and connecting resources and people. And I understand that many of you, the faculty and staff at CCCJ, UTech, and BTDI have already started to dig in by training faculty as PYD trainers in preparation to work with pre-service teachers in your education and training programs. It's my sincere hope that this feels less like yet another training and instead connects with your sense of what you know is necessary to better serve your student populations as you attempt to bridge the world in which they currently live to their futures. In my personal opinion, there's no more important development work being done than this endeavor, or as a professor of mine in graduate school calls it, training young people to become the architects of their own lives. So before passing the virtual mic back, let me just thank all of you for your hard work. We see it, we read about it, and we applaud it. Leaders, please continue to support these faculty, continue to be the thought leaders and contributing to an informed dialogue where other education stakeholders in Jamaica and indeed across the Caribbean can hear you and learn from you. Thanks again, and a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you, Michael. I so agree with you. How can we take any issue with such a name, Positive Youth Development? At this stage of the program, I'm taking you to the most exciting part, the part that you have been waiting for, where all your questions on what is Positive Youth Development program will be answered. We have 3 expert presenters today who will take you through an introduction into positive youth development and social emotional learning. One that will also take us on a journey as to what has been happening here in Jamaica. And our final presenter is going to talk to us about building teacher capacity to reflect on their own practice. Our first presenter today is Ms. Kristen Brady. Kristen is the Director of Education Quality with expertise in basic education reform, secondary and higher education, education systems strengthening, education policy, private partnership, and youth development. She has been significant to the development of the Positive Youth Development Program at FHI 360. This morning, Kristen will take us through sharing an introduction to positive youth development and social and emotional learning and its impact on education. But before Kristen comes, she will be followed by Dr. Gillian Sams. Dr. Sams has been an integral part of this program. In fact, Dr. Sams is our trainer and coach, and she calls herself a dancer, but she won't tell you that later, but I'll tell you. Dr. Sams has been our trainer and coach, and she will be taking us through the lessons that we've learned on the program implementation so far, and the trainings that we've had, recommendations going forward, and she will also invite you to come on board and join us if you haven't yet done so. Now, I'm going to open the mic to Kristen, and following Kristen's presentation will be that of Dr. Sams. Kristen, you now have the mic.
Thank you, Katie Ann, and it's great to be here with all of you today. As Katie mentioned, I'm going to talk at kind of a high level of an introduction to what is positive youth development, and later in the session you'll hear from my colleague Risa Sackman, who will provide you with some very concrete steps that teachers and schools can take at the by implementing a PYD approach at the classroom and school level. If we can get to the slide deck, please. I want to, as we get started, I want to start by asking you each to do a few short reflections to frame our discussion today. We're going to do it quickly, and there's no right or wrong answers. I just want to help get us thinking about what it's like to be a young person, about what we bring to positive youth development. So the first question for you is, when you think of adolescence, what are the first 3 adjectives that come to mind? And you can just jot this down for yourself, or if you would like, and we'd love you to just pop it in the chat box, that would be great. So very quickly, when you think of a teenager and adolescent, what are the first couple of things that come to mind? And we've got a lot of shy people, that's fine. This is really just for us to kind of frame and reflect as we start in the conversation. Moody, changes, optimistic, all right, some positive ones there, rebellious, hip, I like that. Okay, pressure. Great, so these understanding what we bring to our sessions of young people. The next thing I want to do is, when you go to the next slide, is to reflect on your own adolescence and think about a person or an activity you engaged in that influenced you positively. And you could just pop in the name of that. It doesn't need to be the specific name of that person. It could be, it was my English teacher, it was my coach, it was participating in a church youth group, whatever it is that you have positive memories of that's really helpful to you as a teenager. And then think about why that activity or that person was so important. If you could just think of one or two things that really was important to you, why it was important. I see sports, I see another sports. Youth group activities, a visit that was really important, a tutor gives confidence. So this is great. So these are the kinds of things when we think about positive development. These are all great things that have elements of some of the PYD features we're going to talk about now. So great. So these are some great characteristics of why some of these activities or people were important to us. So let's go on now to the next slide. And I want to just talk a little bit about the evolution of youth development. I think you're going to have to click a few times to get the full script there. Thank you. And positive youth development really emerged out of the failure of previous approaches to youth development. And prior to PYD, youth program was really problem-based and typically designed to prevent a specific negative behavior. Youth program was designed only to reach youth, and typically those problem and didn't take into consideration the broader environment that influenced young people, nor was it really guided by what we understand about adolescent development. And this approach was pretty unsuccessful. You might not be surprised. And out of this, we did a lot of research was done, and we discovered which really led us to we now call our positive youth development approach. And the most significant shift was that shift from a lens that was focused on how to help youth become problem-free, and to a focus on how do we really help young people thrive. I mean, you'll see some of those kind of differences there in the slide on the right. If you go on to the next slide, we're going to now shift about what is positive youth development. You can go on to one slide further. And Katie already read the definition, USAID's definition of positive youth development. Back into the positive youth development approach is both a philosophy and an approach. And it helps us to understand the kinds of activities and support young people need to thrive. And there are several research-based principles that are key to PYD. Michael mentioned a couple of them already. The first is that we focus on strengths and positive outcomes. Rather than taking a negative or problem-based approach, we intentionally help young people build on their strengths and develop the competencies, values, and connections they need for life and work. PYD is holistic and focuses on young people's social, emotional, behavioral, and cognitive development based on different stages of youth development. And that understanding of the different aspects of development and what young people are capable of or what they're influenced by is incredibly important. PYD encourages youth voice and engagement, and we view youth as partners who have meaningful decision-making roles in programs and communities. Our approach is to work with young people, not for them. And a PYD approach doesn't see youth as a problem to be solved, but rather that youth are part of the solution. Another characteristic of PYD is that it doesn't just focus on specific youth that are high risk or even gifted youth, but it really says that PYD benefits all youth. While recognizing that some youth do have specific problems that need specific support. PYD is also a socio-ecological approach that includes programming for young people, but it also reaches beyond them and recognizes that it must address the broader environment, which includes family members, schools, communities, community members, system actors such as the police or the judicial system, all of whom impact young people and how young people are seen, the media and cultural norms. So all of these things are part of what positive youth development is. And it really does require a whole of community approach to provide kind of an integrated set of supports for young people. If we can move to the next slide is our definition of PYD that Katie had mentioned. And I just want to kind of highlight some of those words in bold as kind of the key things we need to be focusing on, which is that it's not just youth, it's families, communities, and governments and system actors. Strong focus on engaging youth, on building assets, the importance of healthy relationships in the broader environment. And I think we can go on to the next slide. So PYD has a lot of research was carried out that led to the development of the PYD approach. But research has also shown that PYD can have multiple outcomes, even when it was only introduced with a specific focus on a single outcome. For example, crime prevention programs using the PYD approach have been shown to have impact on academic skills enhancement and delay of social activity. And this has been shown to be true regardless of youth, gender, or ethnic group. Next, I want to go to the next slide, and that will show you the PYD framework. And there's a number of different frameworks out there to describe positive youth development. And the one that USAID the way USAID has developed this is to really look at a set of 4 domains and 7 features. And the domains help us think at programming at a very high level, and the outcomes we're looking for, and then the features help us think about the what and the how of youth programming. And those features come from research that identified through a number of projects what were some of the most common features of successful youth programs. And one of the interesting things is you look at some of those features, many of those same features have the same characteristics that gangs or extremist groups have found to be attractive to youth. And why young people might join one of those groups, which demonstrates why some of those characteristics or features of programs are so attractive to young people. Next, I want to go to the next slide on assets and competencies. And this is the part of PYD we'll spend the most amount of time on today. And we all know, as Michael mentioned, that technical and academic skills are important, but we're increasingly focused on soft, life, or social emotional skills. And you can get this through the integration of SEL into pedagogy and learning activities, as will be discussed later. But skill building doesn't just happen in the classroom, but in other aspects of school and community life as well. Youth also benefit from the opportunity to discover their own interests, strengths, or passions. A number of you mentioned a sport activity or a recreational activity or other things that you really love to do. And for a lot of us, the reason wasn't just, I was interested in sports not because I thought I was a great athlete, but because it gave me something I enjoyed, that's something I wanted to work hard at, that helped me build self-confidence and a sense of mastery. In many cases, it doesn't matter what the activity is, it matters that gives you that opportunity to build that sense of mastery. The other thing to talk about in terms of those extracurricular activities is that they have great potential to build social skills, teamwork, self-control, and many other social and emotional skills. But when they're not implemented with an intentionality to build those skills, and they're not using those broad PYD approach, they can be a missed opportunity to model or foster those skills, and could actually foster some negative social emotional skills. So it's important not just the what, but the how those programs are implemented, those skill building opportunities. Next, I want to go to talk about that overlap between PYD and social emotional learning. And we'll talk a lot today about what are those broad characteristics of an enabling environment, as you can see on the left side of that column. As well as when you add that broader PYD setting and enabling environment with a SEL program that has specific strategies and curriculum and activities and approaches to build social emotional learning, you'll find that we reach these positive outcomes for students. So that's the first domain of asset building. Next, I want to go to the next slide, and we can talk about agency. And agency is a domain that actually is kind of one of the broader outcomes that we're looking for as a key transition point for young people, that they have, not only do they have skills and resources, but they have the vision and a sense of direction and self-confidence to be able to actually actualize their goals. And this domain of agency is really built by most of the other features of positive development. So agency is enhanced through skill building by having a sense of direction or goal orientation through those healthy relationships, the opportunity to express yourself and make decisions, and the sense of confidence that can grow from a sense of belonging that a lot of these kinds of activities that we're talking about can all help contribute to a sense of agency. The next slide is on youth engagement and contribution. And youth engagement is about engaging youth in all aspects of youth programming. At the most basic levels, it's about providing opportunities for youth to express their opinions, which can happen at the classroom level through debate and discussions. It's about providing them with opportunities to make decisions through class meetings, student government, or by having the opportunity to decide how to carry out a research or put together a presentation. It includes opportunities for youth to participate in activities to contribute to the school or community, such as service learning or peer mentoring. At the highest level of youth engagement, this is about providing opportunities to lead activities from the very beginning of design to the what, to actually implementing the whole activity. And this can happen through youth-led media activities, a school yearbook, or other completely student-run activities, and giving youth that space to actually design, to come up with their own ideas and completely lead them is an important opportunity for young people to build those skills that they need. So now I want to go into the next slide and go into the fourth domain, which is about the enabling environment. And this covers a broad range of topics, as you'll see here. The first one, if you go to the next slide, is about healthy relationships. And healthy adult relationships and peer relationships are important to youth outcomes. And the research has shown that youth need, at a minimum, at least one caring adult relationship in their life. And for some youth, that might be a teacher, a sports coach, or another adult in the school setting, making our role particularly important in education. In the video you'll hear later, you'll hear from relationships and 5 characteristics that can help adult-youth relationships have a developmental impact. And those 5 characteristics just help us reflect on the many different ways we can support young people. Teachers can also introduce activities that enhance connections among students to promote positive peer relationships, such as sharing circles, personal storytelling, and activities that help students learn and use active listening, providing positive, constructive feedback, and other relationship skills. In one of our programs in Mozambique, our program came up with the idea of there was many opportunities for youth to give feedback to their peers, and youth had to start with 2 positive points before they could provide a negative feedback. So they really thought very carefully about how do we build some of those skills and behaviors to promote positive peer relationships, as well as those kind of good social skills to begin with. Another element of healthy relationships can include exposing students to new role models to help students expand their vision of future possibilities. And when we think about with the workforce lens, this is particularly important so that we're helping young people have a broader vision than they might see in their own neighborhood or their own family. The next category is about belonging and membership. If you want to move to the next slide. And I think if any of you go back and think about what it felt like to be 14 years old, and remember how important it was to belong and to feel like you had a space. It's particularly important in early adolescence, when young people really see themselves through their peers, and their identity is very much formed by those kinds of peer relationships. And there's a number of strategies that can be done at the school level to help build that sense of belonging and membership. In some cases, it's about breaking large schools into smaller groupings to help create a sense of belonging, activities that create a sense of identity and bonding among smaller groups, and all of those kinds of a wealth of activities for those extracurricular activities that might, so we've got youth have many different places where they can feel that they belong. And then it's a lot about the way in which those programs are implemented, and those anti-bullying programs, those opportunities to build cross-cultural competencies and understand people's differences are all part of that belonging and membership aspect. The next slide, if you want to move to the next one, is about positive social norms and perceptions. And positive social norms influence behaviors and the roles that are seen as acceptable for and expected from students. And at the classroom and school level, you can involve youth in defining those norms and defining the consequences when those norms are not met. And over time, those youth should be provided more responsibility and more independence as they get older and demonstrate an ability to go on. So those norms would evolve as young people mature. And it's important that all student actors, where you have some positive social norms expected behavior, are followed by all school staff and applied consistently. The other piece, which is why I started about asking people about their perceptions, is that teachers and other school actors need to recognize your own perceptions of youth and how that might influence how you view students. So having high expectations and positive perceptions of youth does impact how students see themselves and their own aspirations. So making sure that we filter that and recognize what we're bringing to a classroom and how we work with young people is important. And then the next feature in the enabling environment domain is safe spaces. And that focuses not just on physical infrastructure, but as well as emotional safety, virtual safety. And it's really having that sense of safety is important, particularly for students as they want to build some of those social emotional skills where they might feel more vulnerable. Emotional and safe spaces are particularly important for those younger adolescents who have much higher levels of emotional sensitivity than at older age groups. And if you think about what a 13-year-old feels like when a teacher raises her voice or embarrasses them in front of their peers, that's hugely impactful for somebody at that age group, whereas it might not be so for an adult, but for somebody at later years in high school. And we should be involving students in defining what safe spaces look like, in monitoring those safe spaces, and involving them in determining how to create and ensure safe spaces. And then anti-bullying programs can be an important feature of creating that emotional safe space for young people, as well as that sense of belonging, as we mentioned earlier. And then the last feature is about creating a continuum of services that are integrated, and there's a continuity of communication that happens between a school actor, a family member, a health provider, or some other community service, and teachers and school counselors needing to be able to identify youth who have a specific problem, connect them with specialized services, and then maintain those open lines of communications to ensure consistency in a web of support, consistency of approach, and a collaboration to support youth with unique needs. And that I've kind of run through some of the basic features and domains of positive youth development. I provided you in the last slide just a few resources that go into a bit more about what some of those soft and social emotional skills are like. How do we build them? We did some research around identifying some guiding principles for building soft and social emotional skills, and it lined up incredibly well with positive youth development. And then an example of some things we did in El Salvador to try to introduce a positive youth development approach in that country. So I'm going to leave it there, and delighted to hear the rest of the presentation and answer any questions later.
My name is Pearline Carr. I am a lecturer at the University of Technology. I learned about the social and emotional learning exercises and skills that I never knew about totally before, because it was never taught to me generally. And two, once I became a trainer, I know that I can now teach that to other students. And three, it has now gotten me out of my box. So I now can do two things. I can continue being the teacher of apparel design, production and management and design, but I'm now a trainer of social and emotional learning. The PYD SEL program should be taught to all in-service teachers. This is important because they would be able to transfer this knowledge to the students they teach. What happens in service teachers when they go into the classroom, they teach students normally the academic, the practical skills. But having learned the SEL, they would be better able to transfer these SEL skills to their students. It will help the students to be able to communicate better, help the students to learn to work together. I was impacted by two main things in the SEL program. One, I was taught how to reach out to students at the beginning of a class. If we can reach out to them early, talk to them before you start teaching the academic side of it. Reach out to them. We can get the class flowing even better. And that was one of the things Dr. Sams taught us. The other side was she taught us how to be a good listener. Listen without any distractions. Let them know that we are listening to them. And after listening, that is the time then you would say anything at all. I think it is a very good program to have been developed.
Good morning, everyone. That was so exciting to watch. I'm Dr. Sams, and I've been the trainer for the PYD SEL Skills